Video games are one of the most popular forms of entertainment around the world. Video games' popularity can rival that of sports, films, books, and other forms of media. Unlike video games, in where sports you are required to be physically fit, or in film you must be an excellent actor, video games are not burdened by these restrictions. Video games is one of the few forms of entertainment in where it does not discriminate you against race, sex, sexual orientation, or physical capabilities. Just like in movies, there are a lot of different flavors and genres in the video game industry that many can participate in. But one particular genre have sought a rise in recent years in popularity and is now currently dominating the gaming industry. And that genre is first-person shooters.
I would say that probably first-person shooters is its own genre, probably because it has a certain way it works. Instead of like you being able to have a character and circle around them, you essentially are that character. Your actions are their actions, and vice versa.
Pretending to be the person that is involved in the action that you're participating in, as opposed to a turn-based game or a Twitch game or something like that, where you may be a character on the screen, but it's more overreaching control of that character.
You are within the first person, and most of the time you are dealing with a weapon. So, first person shooter, I mean, sometimes there's a little bit of melee, but, you know, it's not only that, but there's usually a tactical way to do it.
It's typically a lot more linear play style, so you'll have typically like a team versus another team, or solo versus a bunch of other people solo.
The intensity that comes along with it, especially the competitive aspect along with it, like games like Call of Duty and Battlefield, they're really sort of fast-paced, just all-out, balls-to-the-wall action games. So I think that's a pretty good defining characteristic of it.
The very first and most well-known first-person shooter to have come out was Wolfenstein 3D. Soon after its success, games like Doom and Quake were created soon after, giving birth to the first-person shooter genre. After those three games' success, more and more FPSs were created with different takes on the genre, ranging from hero shooter to military shooter, as well as third-person shooters.
They're meant to be fun, and the games only take about 10 minutes or so, so it's a very minimal amount of time that it takes up for each game, and I guess that makes it a little bit addictive in that sense, because you can always fit in one more game before you have to go and do something, or normally you can.
I think, personal opinion, I think maybe not harmless fun. You know, there's definitely violence involved. But those games, Call of Duty, and World of Warcraft, things like that, you know, MMORPGs. But I see it more of a release as opposed to creating violence in somebody. I think it more of a release or an outlet.
I feel like people are inherently good, and those kind of things I don't think cause violent behavior, because a person has control over themselves, their whole autonomy. They know what they're doing. I don't really think it comes down to them being violent because they played this thing. It's either they were already violent. That's about it. They had to have already been violent.
In all honesty, I feel as though these type of games actually deaden people to the violence. It's a way for some people to release aggression safely, or for some individuals, it kind of deadens them to the idea of violence. we live in an age where horrific tragedies occur, so a game like Doom, it's not that even that intense anymore compared to some of the other games out there.
I don't think the violence in the games is so much more of an influence on kids and like the younger demographic that those games appeal to. I think it's more of the community is more of a toxic aspect of it, because you do, like, the games aren't forcing kids to go out and shoot things.
As the years go by, more and more FPS games are created, and more of the technology that's used to make these FPSs become more and more advanced over time. And because of that, it can also even improve our own daily lives.
I mean, we talked about this before, and I talk about it in my classes all the time. I think one of the driving forces behind hardware is the video game industry. Definitely. CPU, memory, and definitely video. And just to push things further and further and further, higher resolutions, quicker refresh rates as far as video goes, faster, quicker RAM, input and output, throughput, and then CPU as well. But yeah, I think definitely video games, first-person shooters is what I hear most people talk about as far as pushing refresh rates and frame rates and more realistic, better resolution. So yeah, definitely.
A great man I once knew said that the three things that pioneer technology in this world is military, porn, and video games. The AR systems we use for some video games, the motion capture systems, are just now being used in other things. For example, I believe motion capture itself was first used in video games and adapted for the wider use of the entertainment industries. So yeah, there's always a hunt to try and make bigger and better things. Video game companies are no different.
Well, I think the Zapper, and this is just very broad strokes, but I think things like the Zapper led to things like the Wii, where you've got not only paddles and what is it, dance, whatever. So you got so you got pads, paddles, and other interactive devices. So yeah, I mean, I think that has led to a progression, and then definitely first person, virtual. I think some of the next steps, virtual reality and more immersive technologies, will come after that.
Just like anything else, the video game industry will always have its highs and lows, and with genres petering out from the spotlight and some coming back to relevancy. And no one can really predict as to what will come for the future, and that is first-person shooters.